Warning. The following episode contains extreme spoilers about the film I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. It also contains possible spoilers for the book The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. Which is, I suppose, in a way, a spoiler about this episode. Okay, not going to think about that. Welcome to Marianne's Macabre Review.
Welcome out to Marianne's Macabre Review. Today we have Keith Jackson. Keith Jackson, sorry. PBS.
There you go.
John
D'Aquila.
You might hear a little mumbling from a red right here. And then we've also got myself, Marianne.
Who is Macabre.
Who is Macabre.
And reviews things.
And reviews things, too.
You know what? I finally got the title of the show. That's pretty amazing. It's been this long, and that's how long it took.
You're like, oh, shoot.
My gird. I get what's going on here now.
All right, so...
Wait, you see how long it takes to get the title of the movie correct?
Oh.
I wrote it down.
I am the pretty thing who was outside, got hit by a shovel, ended up being dragged inside, died on the toilet, and fell in the toilet, but I don't know was that bad, but then I tried to clap and catch a snowflake in the wall.
Under the stairs.
Did that happen in the movie? Did I miss it? I mean...
No.
Okay.
No.
I don't know.
Like, wait a minute.
I don't know how you did that stream of consciousness right now, but I applaud you.
This is not a Thanksgiving film. Do not take my stream of consciousness about turkeys.
I don't even know if this was a horror film. We're going to get into
it's
that.
Ghostly.
I don't even know.
I call supernatural part of the horror. So, John, why don't you give us a synopsis of the story?
I am the pretty thing that lives in this house. In the house. It is... Okay, you asked for a plot synopsis.
Yes.
A young woman goes to live with a author who is towards the end of life for hospice care. She encounters strange phenomenon throughout the house and also deals with potential clues of supernatural goings-on from her charge. All this results in general spookiness.
Mm-hmm. But when do shenanigans start? Do we even know when shenanigans start?
Oh, there's shenanigans.
There's shenanigans and they happen all throughout the thing. So let's...
But did they? Did they?
Yeah, they did. They did.
But was it in her head?
It didn't seem like it.
There's only two things that I can say weren't in her head. Mm-hmm. One would be the phone. So she's talking on the phone... Really, and it's the first time that in the movie that I realized that a lot of the narration that she was doing over things wasn't actually in her head, that a lot of it was her, I guess, reading the book.
What?
So when you start at the very beginning of the movie and she says, and it starts with, I am the pretty little thing that lives in the house. That thing. And I was like, oh, this girl's kind of conceited. Like, I walk in and suddenly I'm this English turn-of-the-century woman, and then you hear her talking on the phone, and...
It's like 80s, 90s.
Right.
Well, that is why it was so confusing. I didn't pick up on that at all. I thought this was just her narrating her experience of going to live with this woman.
Yeah.
And some of it did seem to be that, in fact.
A little bit is the book.
Yeah.
A little bit is what's happening.
Oh my God.
And that got me twisted up, because when you hear her talking on the phone, it's a totally different type of voice, totally different words, because it's very artsy, flowery, it's very much a writer writing what somebody's saying, as opposed to someone actually saying it. But the phone being ripped out of her hand, so it's got like this extra long cord between the phone and its wall placement. And then you see the cord slowly being pulled and pulled and pulled until eventually it rips it out of her hand. So that, I am assuming, actually happened. And then the mold on the wall.
Well, let me back up a moment. So, when the phone call happened, that's when I had to pause the movie and go back and try to figure out the transition of what just happened. There was, wait a minute, I thought this was like a different person in the future from the person who walked in to be the nurse, because she actually looked different enough. The clothing was so different, the tone, as you were saying.
Yeah.
I thought it was a completely different person. I had to go back and actually see it, that transition. She was wearing a Grateful Dead t-shirt, so that did place her certainly at least in the 70s or 80s, probably. And also the style of the clothing.
But was it? Was it? And I say this because the house is dated, right? So the house is dated in a time and space. Her nurse's outfit.
Okay, so this conversation is about to take some convoluted turns for a bit. What PBS and I were trying to say, I think, is that the nurse's outfit itself looked like it could have been from the early 1900s, therefore making it difficult to place what was happening in time. So that abrupt transition to the same character talking on the phone in an outfit that looked like it could have been from the 80s was a jarring transition. And I think that was probably purposeful. And I think it was probably purposeful for the outfit to look like it was... And I suspect that it was probably purposeful to have the nurse's outfit look like it could have been from the time period that the Iris character, the author, the old woman, would have been confused by or stuck in that period of time. And that doesn't make Marianne's commentary here any less valid. However, I think it gets a little confusing here for a bit.
She states she always wears white because it helps the people that are about to... She's in hospice care, the old lady. Right. And she says it helps people get over to understand that in this crappy world, if I wear white, I cannot get dirty. I cannot, she is that angelic...
The pretty thing.
Right.
Untouched,
but
unsullied, and a
weird.
clean presence in an otherwise clouded situation.
Did it seem like, it kind of fit her fashion with the sweater she always wore, but I couldn't place in what time this was. Like, it wasn't present day, but I couldn't tell you when it actually took place.
Well, there were other sort of old-fashioned things about her. She had certain mannerisms that were old-fashioned, even though... So she's on the phone and actually casually used the word slut when she's talking to her friend, which I thought was, doesn't kind of fit. And so we go to a little further, and she's talking to the caretaker or whoever, the estate... No, the
estate manager.
Yeah, about the mold. And he's telling her about the horror stories. And I love that she actually said, "Oh, heavens to Betsy, no. I could never read a,
Yeah.
See, my pick on this was, I was definitely placing it early 80s due to the Grateful Dead, due to the use of slut, due to that there's just enough social freedom, especially from a young single woman's perspective, to allow for this kind of rooming situation, these kind of behaviors to not be terribly tawdry. Oh my lord. However, and also the automobiles, the technology present... Early 80s is when I'm going to place this one.
Didn't notice the cars at the wood
if it really matters. The wood-paneled station wagon.
Okay, now we're getting to... Thank you. Because, again, we know someone, and she's been on the podcast before, that kind of wears those sweaters, but would also wear those T-shirts. And I don't remember what name she actually goes by.
I think it's Marianne.
Is it Tracy? No. What?
Lauren?
She goes by a different name when she's on the podcast.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean PBS?
No, that would be me.
Yeah. I can't remember.
But that also kind of, fashion kind of screws with me because I know people that kind of blend that.
Yeah.
But the cars would have been a good tip off. I didn't pay attention to that.
And honestly, I think regardless of what time this movie was set in, I think most things were there mostly for little clues on character or little clues on mood. Really, it could have taken place in 2019. She didn't want a cell phone in the house. You don't have a cell phone in the house. Easy said and done. She has old school furniture and accessories. She has old school furniture and accessories.
Right.
And I think the contrast in her talking to her friend and her style outside of her day job as a hospice nurse is to convey to you that, yes, she is more than this. She does have a life. She does have a presence in the outside world, outside of this mini fiefdom that is set up.
I didn't feel like she had a life outside this world. And I thought that was kind of the problem.
Car.
But she also forgot at one point where she lived. She's like, and then it came back to her. But it didn't feel like she really had any real connections outside of this either.
And I think
except for that person, which was her sister.
I believe it was a friend or a roommate.
Or a friend.
It seemed like it. It's hard to tell.
Right. So, but other than that one person, it seemed like she didn't have much connection with anybody else. I mean, there's nobody that comes to visit her.
Right.
She doesn't say, I need to take any time off to go visit someone. And she's there for, I know it was originally supposed to be a short amount of time.
But she kept living.
11 months, they stated.
Yeah.
11 months.
Almost a year.
Yeah.
So there's no breaks in this, and there's nobody sending her anything. So it really felt like part of the reason she might have been doing this is because she doesn't have any connections to anybody else.
And I think that goes into what ultimately the theme of this film was. I do think there was that pop of color to remind you that, yes, she's a
alive.
real person. She's a figure. And really, I saw this in a lot of ways as a big old love letter to Shirley Jackson.
Yeah.
Anyone picking up this? The opening narration, The Haunting of Hill House, the opening narration from the book. Then you go into the 1965 film, where that same opening narration is recreated, and even into the recent 2018 Netflix series, where they utilize that narration about what walked behind the house, what walked behind the walls in Hill House walked there alone. And I think the key word there is alone, and I think this is why I love this movie and really kind of was enthralled by it, is as much as it was a story of the supernatural, a ghost story, if you will, it was very much a meditation on loneliness. She was lonely within those walls. The author was lonely within those walls. She felt as she'd been abandoned. Polly, we get indications that she feels lonely, isolated by her new marriage, and then in the time spent after the marriage.
The yellow wallpaper also is another thing that I was like, I'm seeing multiple
yellow wallpaper.
multiple things. So
I guess I was distracted.
So here is my take on it. So it starts out. Polly is narrating to start out with.
Right.
So, and she says it'll be a few
why.
months before I die. And I've actually watched this. I watched the beginning twice, I think, because I started it and then stopped it and then started again just a few weeks ago, right before I was like, hey guys, I watched this. So Polly, it's be a few months before I die, so on and so forth. Very much like Hill House. And with Polly, I feel like she is definitely a ghost and she is definitely there. We do see her a few times. With Haunting of Hill House, Shirley Jackson, I feel like that's a little bit like, was there a ghost? Or was this a woman losing her mind? Same with the yellow wallpaper. You know, I can't remember who the writer is for that, but...
I know exactly what you're thinking, but
Yeah.
good thing we have internets in our pockets.
Yes.
That's good.
While she's doing that, I just wanted to say that would have helped me tremendously, I think.
It'll be easier to follow my rambling here if you realize that when I said that would have helped, I meant that watching the opening of the movie more than once would have helped, because I was certainly tuning some things out. And after hearing Marianne's explanation, I realized that it would have been more crucial to the setup than I thought at the time.
Because I really didn't pick up on what was happening at the beginning. As I said, I went back a little bit to realize, okay, there's a transition here that wasn't as big a jump as I thought. It was just, she just...
You felt the transition, though. Yeah.
She was just old-fashioned, and it just confused me and threw me off. So I just assumed, I guess, that the whole thing from the beginning was still her as well. But it makes a lot more sense that was Polly narrating for a bit.
Because Polly says it'll be so many months before I die. I think she said 3. And then there's a title card that says 9 months later or like a year later, and you're like, wait a minute, I thought she was supposed to die. Then you're like,
I see what you did
I see what you did there. That was Polly, not our main character, whose name is
Lily.
Lily is the main character.
Lily.
Polly is the
ghost.
Subject of an author, a ghost.
So there's something
and Iris is the...
Iris is the author.
I think we haven't gotten to probably one of the most important transitions that happened near the beginning, which was the part that actually got me interested suddenly. It's like, wait, something is actually happening.
the name Polly came up because the writer kept calling her nurse that.
Yes.
Some sort of dementia. So you go, okay, whatever. But when she finally, when Lily, is that her
Yes.
name?
Lily is the nurse.
Talks to the estate manager and brings up the name, suddenly, wait, no, that's the subject of a book.
Her most popular book.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're like, okay, read the story, what's going on? And so, I don't know if we ever got a satisfactory explanation at the end. Maybe you guys caught it and I just saw the brief flash of what perhaps the author supposed happened to Polly, or what really did, or is it, the husband kind of...
So the husband beat her so badly that Polly's head was on backwards. So when she walked, her feet were facing this way and her head was facing that way. So whenever she walked, if you saw her facing that way, she was actually walking the other way.
When did you catch that? I didn't even...
It was indeed hammer time. It was indeed.
It was
It was
described.
Yeah, it was one of the things described in the book. And also when she starts talking about it, the author is talking to Lily, and one thing she said is, near the end, I would notice when she would be walking forward, she'd be looking behind her. But the author actually, it's not even just like part of the narration or flashback. The author actually talks about it too.
Well, I think and that also fits neatly back into the discussion about loneliness and the recurring theme. And don't forget, another thing that recurs throughout this movie and throughout the narration is, this is how I rot. This is how you rot. Mm-hmm. And this degradation of memory, of social contact, of effervescence, if you will, of being present in the world deteriorates.
And literally the wall.
Literally decomposes in the wall, but also your memory of yourself, what you are, what you were, decomposes to the point where the line blurs. Was Lily Polly? Was Polly Lily? Was everything made up? Doesn't matter, because in retrospect, all that fades away and rots. Thus another layer of loneliness on top of everything else that's been going on. It kind of stacks up and explores themes. I love this movie because it is not neat. It does not fit in a narrative box.
No.
It is not, like a edge of your seat cliffhanger. You're like, oh my gosh, biting my nails.
What's going to happen?
But it is a mesmerizing exploration of themes using some pretty basic symbolism. I mean, old lady with dementia. Okay, that's lonely,
That's the other thing about Alzheimer's or dementia, is that there is often said that there are two deaths with it. And I feel like we're visually seeing, like, there's the death of the person that was Iris. And that's probably when her family stopped visiting her. Because the Mr. Waxcap, the estate owner, says, yeah, she's got family. They're not coming. Probably because the pages have been turned back so far. And, I describe it as there's the pages of a book and the bindings come loose and you start at the back and you start pulling them out. And then when you get into when you get into a certain point, they don't know kids, they don't know loved ones anymore. They are stuck in I'm a young woman writing this book and smoking cigarettes.
I am the pretty thing that lives in this house.
Yes. So I feel like she, in herself, has had two deaths and is literally rotting from the inside because her house is visually doing it for her. Same with the nurse to a point, and she was very alone. Go ahead and talk about what you thought about the movie.
I prefer boxes, I think.
Fair enough.
Ghost stories in general are a tough sell for me because I need certain kinds of rules to get behind the narrative of what's going on. I need to know, like, who can actually see the ghost, what can it touch, who was it, why is it there, what kind of peril are the people who are alive actually in, that sort of thing. So I don't know.
I can see that, but I think when you're reaching out to the kind of themes that Oz Perkins was trying to explore here, again, we keep going back. I keep going back to the loneliness. I keep going back to the silence, to the almost introspection that can turn into a type of rot. The regret, the getting lost in reminiscences, as you were alluding to with the Alzheimer's and dementia. I think any kind of box takes away the power of the supernatural to address those themes. A lot of the power of using supernatural as a narrative device is that it does not have rules. It is outside what is known. It almost cannot be known, and that is its nature. So with a movie of this type exploring things this way, and really, I feel like a loving tribute to the work of Shirley Jackson, who was always reaching for the untouchable.
Charlotte Perkins Gilman.
Ah, there we go, the Yellow Wallpaper.
She wrote, if you haven't read the Yellow Wallpaper, it is told as supernatural. It is told as a woman who is living, newly married, and her husband has said, and the husband and doctor have said, you just need to take it easy. You just need to stay at home, stay in your room, take some naps and stuff. She's like, but I'm a writer. I can't just, they're like, no. You just need to relax.
Do you want your womb to jump out of your ear, woman? You must relax.
Yes, and so she sees this yellow wallpaper, and that they put her in this house that has this yellow wallpaper, and she keeps saying, I think I see stuff moving behind it. And she keeps more and more. She sees things moving around it, and she says, there's a woman in the wallpaper, and she's trying to get out. And it continues, and her husband dismisses her. Her doctor says, you just need more rest, so on and so forth. And then he comes in after she hasn't come out for a while, and she is crawling around the edges of the room, just being the woman that is in the wallpaper. And so she wrote that about her husband not wanting her to do stuff. This was her response to him. So, yes, awesome in both ways, but I feel like this is a definitely nod to Shirley Jackson on, well, no. Charlotte Perkins Gilman is her own thing. Mm-hmm. Shirley Jackson is also her own thing. So I feel like both, when it comes to that, are giving their nods to I Am the Pretty Thing, is giving its nod to these other two of women. One wants to be a writer, and it's been taken away from her. She can't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. She still has all these stories in her head. And Polly's the person. Iris. Nope, not Iris. Oh, gosh, Marianne.
All these flowers.
All
Jesus.
these people.
Oh, my gosh.
Lily is the nurse, and she is in her own suffering from loneliness because she can't talk to Iris because she calls her Polly. Mm-hmm. See, there now we're back. Use all the names in one thing.
Full circle.
Full circle.
See, I didn't get... What was it? The Hill House? Mm-hmm. I didn't get that reference. What I saw was a old English drama. That's why I don't feel like I watched a horror movie or a suspense or a supernatural movie. I was watching Dickens, which, by the way, usually the end of the book is the first paragraph or page of the book. So that's also something kind of stolen from that time period of English writers. And the drama played out, and it was slow and parts really mundane because it wanted you to emotionally connect with it being mundane. And I got that, like her just kind of walking around the house, her looking at everyday objects. I love the part at the beginning where she goes to open the drawer and she smacks her hand. She's like, "It's too soon for that." And don't go snooping.
No snooping.
Yeah. I thought that was cute.
But it was all very dry, which is also very English in a drama like that. So the part where I get confused and whether or not did this really happen, did it not? Part one is he tells you the backstory of, and I want to say it was the estate gentleman,
Mr. Waxcap.
But we hear from somebody that one of the stories was set where the young couple gets the house. They're newly married, and they go in, and I noticed that there was nothing in the house while she was walking around blindfolded, feeling
it was
her
a
way
newly
around.
constructed house.
Right, so that story is about Polly and her husband.
Yes.
Yes? So we see her walking around blindfolded, so I don't know what kind of game this is, if he plans on bashing her head in with a hammer. But then at the end of the movie, he walls her up in that same place where we're seeing the mold.
Mm-hmm.
So are we saying that is connected, that that's really what's causing the mold, or it's the pipe that is causing it, or it's all three of these stories coming together, or what was that all about?
So, I think this is a little bit that plays off of Dark Water from a Japanese story. I think it's...
The Gentleman Who Brought You Ringu.
Yes, I think it's the same guy that wrote that. That wrote Ringu, did Dark Water, and, it's a woman that starts seeing dark water because a woman is killed and put into the water container, and so dark stains start appearing in her house.
Growl and Post played on that theme. Yeah, that's a thing.
So all these things, I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, is playing off of the books that we've said earlier, Dark Water, all these different things.
Hideo Nakata, by the way.
Hideo Nakata.
Yes.
Yes.
Who directed Ringu and also Cure and all kinds of great work.
He directed Ringu.
Yes.
Okay, so, yes. So, that person also, I think they might have taken, I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, has taken little pieces that he likes from all these different things to signify, these are the symbolisms that we are bringing in, and I like this, and I like this, I like this.
I agree with you. This film could have been insufferable, I think, in other hands, because it really just falls on the right side of being a formal exercise. You can spot check the influences, like I said, first and foremost, Shirley Jackson, the stories of M.R. James, those classic Victorian era ghost stories where it's usually set up and there's a reason behind the haunting, something like you were talking about with the rotting in the walls. The eldest daughter dropping pens on the floor and then causing unnecessary noise on the podcast.
Stop it.
It really is a formal exercise that brings together a lot of these themes and influences into a consistent, I hesitate to use the term narrative, but a narrative thread that, well, at least a propulsive thread of a movie that connects you via emotion. It is this old Victorian tale of the murder. It is the old mystery of
the ghost.
I know, this ghost is so active here today. But it does fall just short of being a formal exercise in creating mood and... Dead silence while my daughter picks up her pen. Here we go.
It's not a pen this time. It's the MP3 player.
The MP3 player that was stolen from me once upon.
You gave it to me.
Back to my train of thought. This side of a formal exercise where it does play with these ideas of the ghost story, M.R. James, of the classic Midnight Tales, folk tales, and it goes into this whole genre where mood takes precedence over narrative, like The Vitch. Another one you can compare to that.
We couldn't get through that one.
Hagazusa. Has anyone seen Hagazusa?
No.
It's German, excellent, and also, again, combines the unreliable narrator, plays with the concept of time, explores themes of loneliness and isolation. It's really a consistent narrative exercise that just happens to come together beautifully as a film.
Okay, give me the name of that one.
Which one?
Hagazusa.
Hagazusa. Zusa. Z-U-S-S-A.
I was like, I got that one, and I got that one. No, you just said that like, za, zu, za.
It feels very Seussian, it does, but it really, nothing Dr. Seuss about that movie.
Yeah, the images of Polly as she kind of fades in and then fades out was gorgeous.
I love that.
Even near the end where that kind of superimposes on what we're seeing now through Lily's eyes, was fantastic. Maybe it was too high art for me because it really did feel like some film student's submission. It lost me at times because it went too ephemeral. It's like Sunshine of the Spotless Mind created a ghost story. It sometimes lost me in parts. I also don't understand the end. Somebody help me with what happened at the end. Body at the bottom of the stairs.
Lily.
Was Lily.
That was Lily.
Lily had a heart attack upon seeing an actual ghost.
Okay.
So I thought they were carting out the old woman.
And they
She died too.
Yeah,
Okay.
she had
She
died,
go
but
to
she'd
take care of her.
been dead for a while.
Dead lady party. That's what's going on
Right?
there.
Because Lily essentially stopped taking care of her.
No, I think Lily was taking care of her.
She found her dead, and then was confronted by the ghost, I thought.
She found her dead. I don't remember that.
I thought I saw...
If I'm not mistaken, she saw the ghost, died. Then we pan to
Upstairs.
Iris upstairs, who had been deceased after getting out of bed on her own, presumably falling and not sticking
Not
the
being
landing.
Yeah, I was confused by all that. So all I know is cars show up, and then
It seems like
Polly
days
is-
later.
yeah.
Because they do the sunrise, sunset,
Yeah.
sunrise, sunset, and you're like, uh-oh. I actually, I did my thing that I normally do with Keith, even though I was by myself. I was like, that better not be credits. That better not be credits. and then it went sunrise, sunset, and I was like, oh no, this definitely better not be credits after this. And credits.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
Son of a...
Yeah, I do that. I did that one. I did that one with the really bad haunted house story I watched by myself.
Oh, no.
And I was like, fuck. Really?
Ooh, ah!
I was like, that better not
I
be
just felt
credits.
I was so invested in the movie, and then it was like credits, and I was like, what did I watch?
What happened?
So I've gotta kind of lean over with Keith on this one, that this is not the type of movie that I would normally watch for a ghost story suspense movie.
Yeah.
It's not what I expected going in, or even how it started. Like, it's not where I thought it was going to go, and that's fine. I think other people would enjoy this. John obviously does, and I believe there are other people in that camp. For me, about half of it was super boring, or me being confused and trying to catch up with where they were at.
Which is ironic, because it is a very slow-paced movie.
Right. Yeah. And I would be following along, and then I'd be like, I definitely missed something. What are we doing here? Like, the television set. The whole television set with the static kind of brought me in thinking it was going to be a different kind of movie. And then things didn't happen with it. And then you'd have a spark of it getting very loud, turning on by itself. We saw a reflection, I think, for a second when it went out.
Oh, right, yeah, the
Right?
Polly, I guess, behind.
Don't forget, the television was a lifeline to the outside world, something outside that small little kingdom that had been established within
We were
those
told
walls.
from the beginning that there was no television. She saw it, and there was a bit of hope, like, oh, I will have entertainment or something to take me outside of this. And it was static, which goes back to what you're... I don't know, maybe I don't want to think this much.
See, Iris wanted the past. She wanted her
Right.
past contact with the ghost. She wanted her glory days, and the television represented progress and moving forward. It also was a window to the outside world, which Lily was desperate to connect with, but just could not. And that it could be metaphorical for her life outside of the house, where she wanted to reach out, she wanted to have connections with people, was just not equipped to do so.
Or it's from a different time, and she couldn't... I get that this is a really interesting conversation. I'm excited to give my scale on this one.
Okay. So, this is what Netflix says for this.
Okay.
A nervous nurse who scares easily finds herself caring for an alien horror novelist while living in a house with hidden secrets.
That's fair.
So, this is what I read and was like, I'll check this out. Because what I did was I typed, I was over at Lee and Lauren's house and pulled up ghost things. Because Lauren and I were going to find something that we were going to watch together, or anime related or not. And we pulled up that one. And I said, what is that? And so we looked at it. I was like, maybe I'll go home and watch that. And I did. And here I am. And here we are. Because we all watched it.
So has anyone else seen Oz Perkins' other feature film, The Blackcoat's Daughter?
It's on my list. It's on Netflix or Hulu now. So
I believe you would find it much more narratively satisfying. It does address some of the similar themes, so obviously he's kind of got a fixation with some of these ideas and themes, but I think you would find it a lot more narratively satisfying. But it does touch upon loneliness and what happens when you reach for a connection.
yeah. let's give Keith a chance to talk about it for a bit.
Well, I mean, what was I going to say? Yeah, I think that if it had been presented to me as in the context of it being an art piece by a student or something like that for a festival, I think that I would have had a better frame of reference going into it.
Definitely.
It's, if someone offered this to me as a horror movie that I was going to watch, which is essentially what happened.
Sorry.
No, I mean, it's not like an indictment of you, it's just...
It is.
No.
It's just the way that's just the way that I was looking at this coming into it, and so I like to be surprised. Obviously, we've talked about this a lot. If I could just, most movies I watch, if I could actually be handed it to me with no expectations at all, yes, I like to see how it unfolds. It's just that in this case, it's almost like it comes at night. That kind of thing.
Yes.
It's
Ha ha.
Like
It comes at night. John was supposed to be at that podcast.
Oh,
Would be the
Dun, dun,
only
dun.
person
who liked
that would be who liked it.
Yes.
There we go.
That's where.
So here's the problem that I'm getting to. Sometimes art for art's sake runs the risk of being vague for the sake of vagueness and for the sake of being artistic, and then it ends up sort of. It can almost be, for lack of a better word, lazy to me. It feels just like they're doing it because it's, some things that are too commercial or too straightforward or narrative or whatever.
Oscar baity.
No, I'm going to the other side of that first.
Okay.
That formula. People will complain that is too formulaic, but then there's the other side of the coin, or rather, you can go formulaic in the other direction as well, which then ends up sort of being hollow, I guess. Even if the point of it was to be hollow, even if you're saying that I'm trying to present hollowness to you.
You're like, thanks.
Yeah.
No, I agree 100%. Well played.
I think we have two. I'm seeing two distinct factions, and we are actually lined up. I think if I were to guess on a rating scale, John would be the highest, I would be the next highest, and then I don't know. I mean, maybe maybe you might be the lowest, and that's fine.
Yeah.
We don't ever need to describe. We don't need to defend our ratings or anything here, because this is. And I sometimes feel like I have to, because if I don't like something, but we don't have to. Trust me, everyone has opinions, and that's fine. You're allowed to have opinions. So.
Well,
Except you didn't watch the movie, daughter. You didn't.
Yeah.
No opinion. No opinion.
No.
Keith isn't done yet, though.
Yeah. I was going to say that I enjoyed John's description of the movie probably more than the movie itself.
Yes. Yes.
That would have helped, I think, a lot. And it's not like I was miserable or hated it. It's just that it didn't feel like it was going anywhere until suddenly it did, and then they kind of yanked that away before it was over. So,
Do you kind of feel, though, like you had a book assignment that you read for school that you didn't really enjoy the book until the instructor got the class to talk about it?
I can see that.
Like,
That's not
I
just,
do enjoy it more and have a better understanding of it after listening to John and Marianne kind of talk it out.
Right.
But it hasn't wholly changed what I feel about it.
I'm never going to
yeah.
like Old Yeller. Or Where the Red Ferns Grow.
Oh, my heart.
As I say.
Right there.
But it's that kind of, the fact that they even had some of those elements in it as it was going along felt like that, they wanted to present an idea but didn't fully flesh it out, is what I'm saying. It's like they got to that point where it's like, wait, okay, you're going to do something here that is more conventional to a story that you're telling, and then it's like they knew. All right, so if somebody just came to you and said, I want to tell you a ghost story about an author who wrote this story about a woman, but it was real because her husband hit her in the back of the head with a hammer. And you go, okay, what is it? And we go, that's it. So how do I expand on that suddenly? And so.
And there was some filler in there that was empty, but there was some filler in there that was beautiful, which would be like the narration from the book or Polly, as the case may be, whether it was her words exactly or was the writer's interpretation of what was said. Mm-hmm. And then you had these beautiful images of the ghost fading in and out. I felt like they spent so much of their energy and focus on that that we lost sometimes a cohesive or maybe expanding upon the plot more, which I think that's what I was missing. And I think you had that. If you would have just told me this is what the ghost story is, I was like, okay, so that took 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and we get some good effects in here. What's the rest of the movie about? Yeah. Well, it's about loneliness. Okay, so an hour and a half of loneliness, and 10 minutes of a pretty solid story. Mm-hmm. I completely get where you're coming from on that.
Yeah. So, go ahead, Keith.
I was going to say something else. It was
Sorry, I thought you were done.
No, I probably thought of it while you were saying it. It might come back to me.
Okay, well, let's start with our ratings. I am currently torn between two. So I would say this is not definitely a horror. I would say it has supernatural elements in it, and that is in my wheelhouse. That's my favorite thing, is supernatural horror. There's that big pause in there because I just like supernatural. Doesn't have to be horror. Doesn't have to be anything. It will always be on Marianne's Macabre Review. So I will put that out there from here until eternity. Whenever we finish this podcast, we will always do ghost stories in here. So
and nothing else.
And no, not nothing else. but I tend to like ghost stories more. So we'll get into that at another time. So, side note, I am torn with this rating because I have been religiously putting all my stuff into IMDB. So, and it will tell me what else I've rated this, so I can be like, yes, I agree with this. These are the movies were 1 through 10. So I am giving that. I have been entertainment value 5 or 6 is what I've been. What is what I'm aiming for. This is through 1 through 10. Other things I've rated 6 were Shut In, Leprechaun in the Hood, Ghost House, Behind the Mask, Rise of Leslie Vernon.
Oh my god!
Wait! We can't wait. Hold up.
Yeah.
Hold up. You said Leprechaun what?
Leprechaun 5 in the Hood.
Leprechaun and you gave it a what?
I gave it a 6.
I heart you. Okay, keep going. I couldn't. My brain stopped.
Ghost House is also a 6. Behind the Mask, Rise of Leslie Vernon, Inner Demons, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., R.A.P.D.
You gave Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Mama and Hotel Transylvania all got 6.
Yeah.
Come on, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is duller than this movie. Come on.
Hell to the no.
Okay, so...
Unless you've watched all the way up to the current, you can't... No.
Anywho, so... 5, I have much hardly any more items. I have 3 items in there. The Lurking Man, Killing of a Sacred Deer, and Black Waters of Echo Pond. I'm leaning towards a 5. I think we're going to have to keep it at 5. Because it's one of those things where I'm like, this is...
I can't get over S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Well, it's in its own wheelhouse. If you rate it with other Marvel movies, it's definitely a 6. If you go with other Marvel experiences.
She hasn't seen as much of the series as I have.
Okay, so I'm rating for what I've seen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is also not a Marvel podcast.
No, it's not. I'm sorry. Like I said, my brain's...
Don't worry, Marianne. I'm with you. Don't worry.
So
I'm the pretty
Once again, the net exists. That's it.
So this is about I am the pretty thing that lives in the house. It's a ghost/horror movie. Very light on the horror. So I would say I'm definitely a 5 after looking at the ratings for my 6s. And I gotta go back to address the Leprechaun.
The Leprechaun in the Room.
The Leprechaun in the Room here. We had watched 4 Leprechauns already. We watched the original one. We watched the third one. We watched Las Vegas. We watched... we watched... we watched Leprechaun, the original.
Before we get that... I think it's important to clarify whether PBS thinks that you rated it too high or too low, and whether you think that you're defending whether it should be higher or lower.
Okay, so do you think that's too high or too low?
For entertainment value or for overall rating of the movie?
This is the overall rating of the movie.
Oh, hell no, it's not a 6. No. I mean, if you just go by...
Well, it's a 5.
Was it a dumb... No, Leprechaun in the Hood. If you think it was just a dumb movie that was hilarious to watch...
Okay, so let me go back.
Above a 4, I'm like dying right now.
Okay, so we watched Leprechaun.
Here we go.
Leprechaun in Las Vegas, which is 3. We watched Leprechaun in Space, which is 4. And then Leprechaun in the Hood, which is 5. Mm-hmm. So, comparatively, this was a 5.
If you're rating them amongst themselves, I can see. But again, your opinion's your opinion. I'm not saying it's wrong.
All right, we're going into Leprechaun in the Hood right now. I've got to throw in 2 cents here. I would enthusiastically agree with any rating on Leprechaun in the Hood from 1 to 10, because the last 20 minutes is a Freudian field day of a film that is so nuts and so out there that if you want to call it awful, I'm with you. If you want to call it the greatest thing ever, I'm with you.
So it's...
I tend to agree for things like that. It's just so hard to tell anymore. I mean, I don't even remember what happened in it right now, but it's just...
So the end, there's a rap. The Leprechaun rap.
he does.
And I love it.
And very confused issues about masculinity, and oh my gosh, it's all over the place, man. What a wild ride.
And then we didn't even watch Back into the Hood.
Oh.
And... But we have since watched, or we had already watched the WWE remake.
Oh, with Hornswoggle?
With Hornswoggle.
Yeah.
Hornswoggle's the monster, and he's not even a leprechaun in it.
Mm-hmm. That's sad.
And why even put Hornswoggle in it? A known leprechaun in the WWE universe.
A known leprechaun? He's got pedigree.
I'm just saying, why you gotta typecast him like that? Just because he's a leprechaun in WWE doesn't mean he can't aspire to be other things.
So next time we're going to be reviewing I Am the Leprechaun That Lives in the Hood.
He's billed as starring Hornswoggle, and he's barely in it. So anyway, off topic. And the brand new newest Leprechaun that just came out.
I Was a Teenage Leprechaun?
No, it's the Leprechaun with a new guy that cuts out the rest of the continuum and it's like 1 and 2, and that's it.
So they're getting highfalutin and thinking they can go all Halloween on this.
Yeah,
man.
I was going to say, Halloween is kind of notorious for the movie we will never speak of.
Yeah. Is it Season of the Witch?
Silver Shamrock.
Happy Halloween, happy Halloween.
Deserves to be a longer debate on its own, I think.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, dude, I'll join in.
Sorry,
on that.
entertainment was 5, and then what was the other?
We're only doing entertainment.
There's
not really any horror in
Okay.
this. So.
Wow.
Well, it's a ghost story, Keith. We've just had that discussion.
Okay. Oh, right. Nope.
All right, who's next? Who's got the rating?
Who wants to do their rating next, Keith?
Oh, God, I don't know. I would say that I'm surprised that you put it at a 5, because I think John probably talked me to a 6 on it. So, yeah.
When you're good, you're good. What can I say, folks?
What would you give it if you could just watch without John talking to you about it? Okay,
I don't know. It's tainted now. I can't do it. I don't know.
I broke him.
Yeah.
All right. PBS, what's your rating?
So, my rating didn't change. So, it is a 2.
Okay.
Wow.
And that's because one of the things that helps me with my rating is this a movie I would buy? Is this a movie I would watch again? And on both of those, that's a no. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't spend money on it, and I also would not watch it again. I don't feel like there's anything new I'd really get from it, and it was hard to get through the first time. But I really enjoyed talking about it and hearing other people's views on it. Again, thank you, John and Marianne, because hearing that perspective, especially influences that you were able to see from other movies that you enjoy. I was looking at this totally as like an English novel, not even as, I'm not wholly convinced I even saw a ghost story. I am still, and I was reading through some reviews. I'm not the only one that thinks that it was just her kind of going crazy. That she said she was a scaredy cat. She started reading it, and perhaps, like I said, the phone was something that was the ghost, but the rest of that I think was all in her head. And I think she scared herself to death just because she scared herself to death. But on that, we're going to have differing opinions, because it's whether or not, again, do you trust the narrator and what they're seeing with their eyes, or do you believe that, again, she's kind of going crazy here.
Yeah, the IMDb score was 4.5. So, and I'm above that. So
I feel like we're going to average out to that, possibly.
One thing I wanted to say, you reminded me of something. It was just funny to me, again, the sort of old-fashioned character that she was presenting to the caretaker, or, the state guy. What's his name?
Mr. Waxcat.
Yeah, Waxcat. And it reminded me of Amanda, because of something she said. He suggested, well, if you can't get through the book, they made a not very good movie of it. And she was, I think that might have been that, oh, heavens to Betsy, or something like that. It's like, right. I'd like to run out of the house screaming, into the street. So setting up that she probably might have been kind of easy to scare. It makes me wonder if it would be possible for someone to really be scared to death by something like that. Anyway.
John, your rating.
My rating, even though this hit a lot of my sweet spots, the unreliable narrator, the touchstones of other pieces of horror literature, and I don't want to say ephemera, but, just kind of stuff that if you're into horror, you're going to catch these little nods. It was pretty to look at. It looked more at horror than just a boogada, more of an existential dread approach to horror, more of a, oh God, what is this biological machine I'm trapped in kind of a thing to horror, approach to horror. With all that things I love, I still do agree that the pacing on this was still just a little too glacial. Like I said, it just felt just on the right side of being a formal exercise. So overall, I will give it a 7 because I really enjoyed its themes, its approach, but I thought I could have done execution a bit better. So 7, definitely worth a watch, but know what you're getting into.
5 is what we average out to.
Can I input my thoughts?
Yeah, sure.
10 out of 10, I didn't watch it.
Best Marvel movie ever.
See, now I do want to see I Am the Leprechaun That Lives in the Hood. Huh?
Oh, we're done. That's it. I'm
out. Okay. Who has something that they want to promote?
Okay, so I am PBS from the past, talking about something that's happening in the future that's going to be in your past here soon. So PSA from PBS is going to be coming out with a new show on Sunday, which will be your last Sunday, because when this finally
Sunday
comes out.
Coming up, yes.
Yes.
This will be coming out on Tuesday, which will have already have happened.
So it's there. Go find it. So this week we are getting back into hot foods. And just remember, your food should fear you.
I don't like pain when I eat. Nope. I think I am the only one at this table that is not a spicy food person. Garlic, I like garlic, but that's
This is not. This will be a great show for you to listen to, because you're going to listen to other people's pain and suffering while you
I
eat
do like that.
your Cool Ranch. So
those ghosts.
But we are going to hit, I believe, over 2 million on the Scoville scale this week with the last ad, XXX.
Keith did one of those.
Yeah, for the
with chicken nuggets.
Patreon stuff. It's all been done. So there's video of several of us trying different hot sauces and so forth.
Was the last one was the only one that got you, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Some of those things kind of build, but still.
Yeah. John, do you have anything you'd like to talk about?
Nothing that is currently available. However, be on the lookout pretty soon. A podcast called Mike and John Are Friends, will be hitting somewhere. It is in the process of being edited out there, so Mike and John are friends. It's a-coming.
All right. Keith?
Well, I mean, recently the last audiobook I did was released on Audible, like a couple weeks ago, I guess, wasn't it? A few weeks, something like that. Called Blackheart Boys Choir by Curtis M. Lawson.
Narrated by?
Me, yes.
J. Keith Jackson.
J. Keith Jackson.
And so far I only know of 2 people who've actually listened to it.
Me!
We want to do a show on it soon at some point, if we can get other people to listen to it.
Okay, so I'm being a little snarky here, but I should clarify that the audiobook is being downloaded by people and they're listening to it. It's just that I haven't really been able to talk about it with most of my friends because they have not. And, even with the people that I know have listened to it, we've got an episode that we can do. It's just that 1 or 2 more people, wouldn't hurt. And we'll most likely also have the author, Curtis M. Lawson, on at least part of the episode. And that also is what Marianne was talking about when she said the author would like to talk about H.P. Lovecraft. She doesn't mean H.P. Lovecraft would like to talk about it, but she means Curtis M. Lawson, who also expressed interest in doing a discussion about that at some point as well.
If any of our listeners or anybody at this table wants to listen to an Audible book of Keith reading a book, then he will give you a code, or you can buy one, or you can buy it through Audible.
Or he'll come to your house and read it to you.
Or we can have that offer too. This is funny, we actually have 2 voice actors at the table today. 3 voice actors at the table.
I record professionally the automated system. If you call certain numbers, I'll be the one telling you to press one.
I think I constitute X at this point. So.
I don't think that ever goes away. Do you still read stories in silly voices to your daughters?
Yes.
We'll be reading comic books at Secret Identity Comics soon. So
You'll be doing what?
reading comic
Father.
books to kids.
Father, you need to update me on your life.
Wow.
Sounds like I'm grounded again, folks.
Abandonment issues start early.
So, yes, we all have things that we're all doing, and we're all of us here are voice actors. You might hear, PBS might be the voice of your automated voice system.
That's so sad. No, it's like the worst voice acting job.
John has been on TV and on a Lemonheads commercial, I'm pretty sure.
Airheads.
Airheads commercial,
Nice.
yes. National commercial, by the way, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And Keith is just everywhere. If you, if you go to Audible, you can find him in 8 different books.
The star power is blinding right here at the table, man.
For sure.
I'm going to join your mighty ranks someday.
Yes.
There you go. Aspire.
I was in something for Midnight Audio Theater recently.
And he's also going to be in Midnight Audio Theater. Is it sci-fi?
Yeah.
I think it's a sci-fi story.
I'm not sure when they're going to... I think they want to have finished editing it by the end of this year, and so it might be out sometime.
Keep us updated, yeah. Keith.
Okay.
What are you up to, Marianne?
Nothing.
Any podcasts or anything?
I have this podcast. I'm listening to, I do. So I have this podcast, and what we have coming up is we're going to review Keith's book. So within the next month or so, if you're going to listen to it, and then let us know, and we'll get everybody together and we'll talk about it. The author would like to join us for some H.P. Lovecraft discussions. So if you've read some H.P. Lovecraft, come join us, and we would love to have you. Also, we have missed some of our movies that are in our wheelhouse that we like to do. Mainly, Annabelle Comes Home.
Yes.
And I know you're hungry, Keith.
I'm just hoping that's not in the mic. It's probably not in the mic.
It's on the mic. Annabelle Comes Home. We need to discuss this. I haven't even watched it. It went by so quickly that I was like, what?
That's a good sign.
Yep, must be a blockbuster.
Must be a blockbuster.
We also need a Marianne and PBS Macabre PSA because that crossover thing, we've got board games to check out together and play.
Some more board games we can do.
So already purchased and ready to go.
All right. So yeah, we can do that. And you know what? I have an Extra Life gaming marathon coming up.
Yeah, you do. I was like, are you gonna put that out there?
Yeah.
Like, that's a huge deal.
So every year, this is my 7th year of playing games for kids for 24 hours. I don't sleep. I do nothing but play games. This could be board games, video games, little tappy iPad games.
Well, when they let you and you don't have to host and stuff.
I am also when I do have people that come to my house, so I will be hosting at some of the time, but it will be all game related. Even when we're eating, we're usually watching a video game, or not a video game, but we're usually watching Scott Pilgrim or Wreck-It Ralph or any of these fun gamer films that are out there now. And so you can find those links on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. My Facebook, just search for us at Keith. If you keep saying "damn it" every time your stomach growls,
they're definitely going to
You're just going to encourage it, man.
man.
You have to ignore it, or else it's just going to keep going for attention. That's
You know, it occurred to me you could probably post a link to it or something on this page.
Oh, fact.
For Macabre Review.
Yeah, I could. So, on Twitter, we are at Macabre Review. On Facebook, search for Marianne's Macabre Review. And I don't have a website yet, but I am working on that. I have just started a new job, so therefore life has been crazy.
Woo. But yay!
Yeah, but yay! And then I also am doing trivia. So I just got finished doing 2 full nights of nothing but horror trivia. So next time I will make sure to invite everybody out so you can come play horror trivia with me, because I'm sure the fans of Marianne's Macabre Review would kick butt with it. So.
Yes, and we could set up a live on your Facebook page.
Indeed, we could.
Yes.
Alrighty, folks, got anything else?
No, thanks for having me. That was fun.
I think Keith's stomach has a few things to say. What would you like to say, stomach?
Oh gosh, we've got Keith, we've got narrator Keith, and now we have Keith's stomach.
Yeah.
It's getting a little crowded in here.
Yeah.
And so the Skittles came into my belly.
Alrighty, folks.
That was John, by the way.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Who's got the time?
10 out of 10, I didn't watch it.